Welcome to the Revenue Café. The Revenue Café podcast is brought to you by Breadcrumbs, the revenue acceleration platform. In each episode, we will bring you interesting conversations on all things sales, marketing, and CX related. The hope is we will help you along the path to revenue acceleration and entertain you along the way.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Revenue Café. I'm once again joined by my partner in crime, Joe Aicher. And this week, we are so privileged to have Goran Kovacevic from Infinum, a digital design agency, who's going to be talking about his career path and the interesting challenges of running one of those types of companies. Goran, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Goran, maybe just to give some context, you can tell us a little bit more about Infinum.
Yeah, so Infinum is a digital agency, and we've been around for 16 years now. In this type of business, I would say that it's quite a lot of time because, the core things that we do is we develop mobile apps, websites, complex web solutions for our clients. And when you think about it, like mobile apps were not in existence like 10 or 12 years ago. So I would say that we kind of started when all this kind of hype around this started with smartphones and things like that. Right now we have around 350 people spread across different offices in Croatia, where our headquarters is, in New York, and then we just recently opened an office in London, and then we also have some other offices here in the region. They're mostly development offices, development teams. What else? Our clients basically come from different verticals. So we do a lot of work with clients from healthcare industry, banking industry, fintech, etc. And we work with clients that are like typically enterprises, well-established brands, even some exciting startups, etc. So we cover a lot of things. Pretty much that's what I would like to say about Infinum.
Yeah, that's great. And maybe you could tell us, so you said that it'd been around for, did you say 12 or 16 years?
16, yeah.
16. And so it looks like you've been there for about half of that time. And you have an interesting background. It looks like you spent some time working in hospitality and, a lot of different kind of experiences. You want to tell us how you got there and what your journey has been like for 8 years?
Yeah, sure. I've been at Infinum for 9 years, actually, almost 9 years now.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's funny where you dig that out, that I worked at hospitality. That was a work and travel program that I went on in the US, like in 2011, I think. So that was my final year in college. So I took the opportunity to go to US and live there for half a year and, do a bunch of different stuff. And those were like, lower paid jobs, you could say. They were just kind of, for students. But I had a great time. It was a very good experience.
And then so from there you ended up, so have you spent most of your career at Infinum?
Yeah. I would consider Infinum as my first real job. So I started 9 years ago, and basically I started at a company when it was 20 people big. Like I said, now we're 350 people. And I started as a sales assistant and basically built up my ranks all the way to director of business development position where I'm occupying right now.
Yeah, that's great. So tell us a little bit about that journey. Like, what's it feel like to go from, in the trenches selling at a 20-person shop all the way to leading the BD strategy at a 350-person company?
Yeah, so at first it was mostly like we did like business in the region, in Croatia mostly, and then we kind of started expanding and getting more clients in other different markets like US and outside in Europe like Germany, UK, etc. My job at first was like to do quotes, to do estimates, and to kind of provide proposals for clients. And then as the team grew, my job also kind of became different. So what I'm doing right now is mostly like figuring out strategy with the management in order to how we're going to expand to different markets, like what kind of offices we're going to open next, and just how to grow this team to be even bigger and to be able to support that many people that we have right now.
Yeah.
When
So
you
as far
say
as
like I've been here for 9 years, sorry to cut you off.
no, it's okay. Go ahead, finish your thought.
Yeah, when you think about that, I've been here for 9 years. Like in IT business, in IT industry, it's quite a lot of time because I'm sure you are aware that people often change jobs in IT business, but that mostly goes for developers. So I wouldn't say that I had like most uh, exotic career path in terms of like switching jobs, switching companies, but that also allowed me to do a bunch of different stuff on my own time, to explore some of my hobbies that I do and other things that I find important in life.
Yeah. I don't think it's Goran. I don't think it's just developers. I think my kind of formative years were 6 years spent at BlackBerry, where
Hmm.
my career really took off. But I haven't spent anywhere near 6 years anywhere else. I think this, changing of jobs, looking for new challenges, looking for new opportunities is kind of the new normal. 9 years at one company, that's abnormal. But something that allows you to
I agree.
see the transformation of the organization, in a way other people don't. Um, so
Yeah,
you're talking about passions and hobbies. What are some of these passions and hobbies?
yeah. Like I said, this job gave me opportunity to kind of grow in different areas. I mean, my hobbies is like I would in the first place it's sports definitely. I mean, I grew up playing sports, playing football, or what you guys call soccer in the US. So that's
Yeah.
my first passion that I still kind of do uh, on occasion recreationally. So other
Hmm.
things that I do, I have a band, rock and roll band, so which is basically a cover band, and
Yeah.
this is the other passion I would say that I do in my spare time. Obviously, we were not able to play as much in the past 2 years, but I hope we can pick up again. And then the third thing I would mention is philanthropy, which definitely became a big part of my life. I'm not sure if you guys learned from news or anything about the earthquake that happened in Croatia last year, which is 6.3 on a Richter scale. And it was pretty devastating for people in that region in Croatia. And it's actually a region that I come from, where I was kind of raised. And what I did was I had I had like I could just kind of donate some money to Red Cross or some other institution like that, but I decided that I could probably do more. So I started a GoFundMe campaign and raised close to $200,000 that I later donated to 22 different families, to a music school in that region. So and ever since I kind of started exploring different opportunities where I can make an impact.
That's amazing. $200,000 is no small feat.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so we do call it soccer here, just to touch on that quickly. But here is Canada
In
for
Canada,
me, the
yeah,
US for Joe. Yeah. Um,
yeah, yeah.
but my parents are from a tiny little island in the middle of the North Atlantic called San Miguel. It's part of Portugal. Um, so football is also a
Oh,
natural
really?
term for me. Yeah, and
Yeah,
I played
absolutely.
competitive. I played competitive soccer all the way up until university, and then I discovered, you know, vices. I discovered the bars, and I
What
stopped playing
what
soccer. And
position did you play?
Mostly fullback, sweeper often.
All right.
So
Cool,
yeah.
cool.
How about you?
I'm on the other side. I'm more like attacking midfielder or just a striker.
Yeah, too much running in the midfield. I liked in the back a little bit more. Joe's a passionate cyclist, as you can tell from his artwork in the
Mhm.
background.
Yeah, I've been tracking the Tour de France for the past 2 weeks. It's you can pretty much find anybody, especially in Europe, that is tracking cycling at some level
Yeah.
if you're into it. So yeah, super like it's always nice to kind of get out. So not much on the team sports side, but
Uh-huh.
get out and find a group of riders and just go ride away. So it's been a lot of fun.
Do you do any competitions or is it just like recreational?
It's no, just things to test your limits, So I've
Okay.
I've done a couple like 60-mile rides and have pushed into one 100-mile ride. Did the Century ride, and I don't feel the need to ever do that again. But it's been accomplished, so we'll kind of check that one off the bucket list. So.
Great stuff.
So did you follow the Euro Cup and were you happy with the outcome?
I did. I followed it. I obviously wasn't happy that Croatia got knocked out by who did we lose to Spain. Yeah, it was a very dramatic match, but I'm happy that Italy won because I'm a fan of. I mean, we're close to Italy and like
Hmm.
visit Italy, and I like their football. I like their competition Serie A, so I was definitely rooting for them in the finals.
Yeah. So I was disappointed that Portugal lost, obviously. Um, but both of my co-founders here at Breadcrumbs are Italian. So if anybody else was going to win, it had to be Italy. So worked out okay.
Of course. And you had your moment 4 years ago, so
Yeah, but that was 4 years ago. I don't live in the past. I live in the future.
good one.
Awesome. So listen, in terms of your evolution into this BD role and trying to help guide the future growth of the business. 350 people for an agency is already pretty big, right? Like agencies tend to kind of have this tipping point where like they get too big. Do you guys have that view? Like how are you guys managing that?
Yeah, you're right on point there. I mean, like 4 years ago, I would say we were just hitting 100, and we were like, "Yeah, that's great." We're not sure if we want to keep, developing it because it's getting hard to manage as it is. And then, it's like always a chicken or egg question. You have more work, you need more people. You have more people, you need more work. So we just kept growing and we kept doing okay. Quality didn't suffer, which is the most important thing for us because
Hmm.
quality is the best referral that you can get in this business. And
Hmm.
we just started expanding. At one point, we started doing some joint ventures. So a year ago, we opened a joint venture together with Porsche Digital, and we opened a joint company basically, which is based in Croatia. And the goal is to hire 100 people, 100 engineers for that company alone. Then we also have some other,
Wow.
spin-offs like Productive, for example, for managing digital agency. It's a SaaS tool. And then on top of that, you still have an agency that's kind of developing. And we're also introducing a lot of different services that we didn't do 5 or 10 years ago, like I don't know, machine learning, embedded development, growth, etc. Those are like kind of emerging technologies that are trendy right now, and we have to keep up with those trends. So we are starting to establish those teams and then grow them again. So overall, when you count it together, it looks like we're growing very fast, but for now we're still managing it. And one of our biggest issues or challenges right now is capacity again, because we have so much work that we just can't take on. So we're starting to be more pickier, and to develop like a better criteria for type of projects that we want to do.
Right. So did anybody get a free Porsche with that deal?
Not a free one, but there were some deals around the company for the upper management.
Yeah, that's all right. So
Yeah.
listen, you said quality is the best referral, which obviously when you're a services business and when you're delivering tangible product, for sure that makes sense. But obviously there has to be other elements that have helped drive this growth. So what would you say you or Infinum have done well to like identify new customers and bring them on board? What's your secret sauce to growing?
Yeah. I mean, we were always big on writing good content, like blog posts, and why? Because we wanted to target, business owners. We wanted to target, managers, decision makers that are kind of able to read that content and say, okay, so this is exactly what I need. Our approach towards clients has always been to kind of be able to provide a solution to their problems. So when they are able to read that someone understands their problems, then they're more likely to trust you to actually provide them the solution to that problem.
And so like when that that lead comes across your blog, they read that article, and somehow they get in touch with you guys. How do you make sure that the expertise and the approach that was in the content follows through into the sales conversation and into the delivery? Like, how do you make sure that that whole experience is connected?
Yeah, so that's kind of a part of a business team to basically to leverage everything that we have in order to bring that client on board to kind of to close the deal. And
Hmm.
as I mentioned, like we have a lot of content, whether it's like blog posts, whether it's handbooks, some kind of interesting things that we can talk about, write about, and then there's also technical expertise, like technical support that we bring on to the client to kind of explain how we're gonna do things. One of the things, obviously, that we're doing and everybody's doing these days are workshops where we try to kind of figure out the MVP scope of their product. So it's 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 a kind of not easy to give an estimate to a huge product that needs to be built over a course of 2 or 3 years. And we don't want to scare away the client by giving them like a huge cost. We want to make
Hmm.
sure that we start with a smaller portion of work and just build on top of that. So
Yeah.
and that's what they like, because they don't have a feeling that they need to commit to this huge budget, and they might be uncertain about the product itself until we reach an MVP solution that they're going to be able uh, to lay out to their customers, and then to feel them out if it works, what needs to be changed, what can be upgraded, etc.
Sure. That's a great way, to reduce the risk associated with the deal and, get that foot in the door to get the project started. But you probably have, I'm assuming you have a challenge in that, Breadcrumbs is a relatively new SaaS company. We've been around for about a year and a half, and we've gone through a bunch of different iterations in our approach to development. I am constantly bombarded with cold email from dev shops all over the world. There's a ton of competition. How do you kind of cut through that challenge of the perception that there's a million options, it's somewhat commoditized, you can go to different places and pay a fraction of the cost? How do you kind of overcome some of those objections?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, like it's very difficult, and that's the point. Like you need to be honest. You need to be honest with the client and with yourself. Like there are a million options, as you said, and you need to kind of differentiate yourself from them. And that's where your probably marketing strategy comes in. So you can at least get to the same table with the client you want to work with. But then in some situations, even if you do the workshop, etc., you would maybe figure out that it's not for you and that the product is not going to work out for them and their end customer. So it's best to say, like, guys, let's go and grab a drink. It will cost you less, and let's find something else to do. But I think that honesty is, there's a saying, honesty is the best policy, but it really is. And we've been able to kind of cut through this just by saying them frankly what needs to be done, even if it's something that they didn't want to hear. Maybe we would just cut off some features from the scope. Maybe we would just I don't know, suggest anything that they didn't kind of envision initially, and they didn't maybe like it in the first place, but they would come to it later after we would do some sort of a pilot project, or some user testing or something like that, that would kind of prove the point. And that's where we are able to build trust. Also, one other thing that we started doing was kind of pitch concepts, but we don't do that often. We just, like, I would say that on average we do 5 or 6 pitch concepts per year, and that's for the leads or products or projects that we find most interesting, and where when we feel that this can really be a great solution, this can be a great partnership between us and them. And how we differentiate ourselves from the competition there is, we tell the client, hey guys, can you give us 2 weeks? We're going to build something for you, whether it's mock-up screens or just like a look and feel clickable prototype, or whether it's a code report, like review the code that they already have and get them some recommendations on top of that, so they can see that we are actually engaged and that they can trust us, that we're going to be there for them on a long haul.
Right. Yeah, I've found, I think I found a trend in the market, and Breadcrumbs is experimenting with this as well. So Breadcrumbs is all about finding hidden revenue opportunities in companies, right? We build these buying urgency models that tell you, hey, like a lead that came in is like way hotter than this other lead, or we look at your install base, your customer base, and identify customers that are ripe for an upgrade or an upsell or a cross sell. We help companies basically find this revenue that already is there, just untapped. And what we've started doing is for certain prospects that we are really interested in, we'll actually do all of the analysis that needs to happen to build a model, and then we'll build those models for the customer. So we will invest upfront for companies that we really want to work with, and show them the proof that the system works before we ask them for the deal. There seems to be this trend of buyers looking for value earlier before committing to the spend. Do you see that trend?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you need to invest to be able to attract the clientele that you want to work with. Like you said, there's a huge competition all around, and you need to somehow build trust, get trust, and kind of swim out of the whole competition and kind of be visible. And also in terms of content, today, the marketing, from marketing perspective, like everything's the space is oversaturated with similar content. And I'm sure you guys have maybe a similar challenge with the podcast. Like there are a bunch of different podcasts right now running all around, especially during the pandemic, etc., that came out.
Mhm.
And it's just probably difficult for you to get viewers in that space because there's so many similar things. So I would say that it's pretty similar in every business, in every aspect.
Yeah, no, for sure. Listen, when it comes to content, what has been obvious to me for the last few years is that you know, written content specifically, right? SEO focused content,
Mm-hmm.
massively saturated, right? Where like 10 years ago, you focus in on a certain basket of keywords, you write content around that. All of a sudden, you're on the first page of Google and, it's driving traffic. It's way harder to do that now, like way, way, way harder.
Yeah.
And so then people started branching out into more like rich media, things like podcasts, right? Audio, video content. I think that space is getting saturated. I think there's still some room there. And the podcast that we're doing, like the Revenue Cafe, uh, the title kind of indicates our objective, right? Our objective is really to have casual, fun chats with interesting people. And hopefully that's enough to get listeners interested. Um, but just doing that is like worthwhile for us anyways. What we're doing above and beyond that, and I'll start teasing it now, is trying to look at video as so YouTube is like the world's second largest search engine. I don't know if you knew that, right? Like it's like Google and then YouTube. Um, so we're looking to create really fun content for YouTube that's more of like an infotainment approach. There'll be some information in there, but it's more about being fun, engaging content. So shortly, it's middle of July now. Hopefully by the middle of August, we're going to be releasing an animated series, a cartoon, basically. And we hope that that is, unique enough and differentiated enough that people pay attention and are really excited about it. But doing the same old stuff, not enough anymore.
Yeah.
You gotta figure out something to cut through the noise. And on
Was
that
that
note,
was that an announcement right here?
well, I guess so. It's a little bit of a tease for it. I didn't give a ton of details, but we're
Yeah.
super excited. Yesterday I just saw the first storyboard version of the trailer for the series, and man, it looks awesome. I'm super excited.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing
Yeah,
that.
yeah, for sure. But on that note, um, over the last 9 years, what other trends have you picked up on? Or another way of looking at it is, what have you learned to be, kind of a misconception around sales and marketing, that just keeps perpetuating?
Yeah. So one thing was we never actually did outbound before pandemic. So all our work came through referrals, came through uh, inbound channels like our website, through content that we're providing, etc. So we can say that it's all inbound. We never did outbound because we didn't feel that we need to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
then when pandemic started, we started exploring it. Even though we still didn't need to do it, but we wanted to make sure that we are doing everything we can if shit hits the fan.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, so we started doing it. We did it in the US, we did it in Europe. We also had some agencies that were helping us out that are experts in that field. And we did it for a year and a half. And we were aware that it's not going to bring any clients right away. It's not going to be like successful right away. And we were fine with that.
Mm,
We wanted to build network. We wanted to meet some people. We wanted to get some connections in some companies that are interesting to us, and that's what we achieved. We did not close any kind of notable deals through it, and then we figured out that it's trash. not as like nobody should do it, but it just doesn't work for us. It's not for our business. It's not for where we want to go. And I would say that was it was a good experience for us. We learned a lot through it, but we kind of figured and we learned what we need to do and what we shouldn't do, and that kind of brought us to a different path in terms of like different strategies that we want to do now, because we learned what doesn't work.
Yeah, no,
I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, I think Joe and I both have. Joe, you want to make a comment on outbound, and then I'll pipe in.
Well, yeah, I was curious if you know, you go through that whole experience, and I think a lot of companies do sink a lot of time and effort into outbound because they're trying to supplement an inbound, you know, side that isn't quite fulfilling what their targets are, things like that. So, like for a lot of companies, obviously, it makes sense, and there's but there needs to be kind of a different set of expectations around outbound. So it's curious to hear that eventually you found like it was really good for network building. It was really good for getting your name out there. And I think that's what initially, you know, a lot of companies find. So did those like expectations for you guys change as you started? Was it originally a goal of closing 10 deals, and then all of a sudden you kind of change and realize kind of really what you're dealing with and make those adjustments?
So no, the goal was not to kind of to close number of deals. The goal was what you initially said, like just to build network, to get our name out there, and that's what we accomplished. But then, even when we did get some opportunities, they were not real opportunities, and we figured that they're not attractive enough for us at this stage. So we figured that like we don't need to go and reach out to thousands of people from hundreds of different companies, because we don't want to work with 100 of those companies. We want to work with 10 of them.
Yeah.
So that's what didn't make sense. So dots didn't connect there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. So like, you know, through my career, I've been responsible for a bunch of outbound strategies at different companies, and we're doing outbound here at Breadcrumbs, and it's, you know, Joe alluded to it, right? We're a newer company. We're building this inbound engine, and it's starting to work. But early on, you want to supplement that and try and fill your pipeline with some deals. To be honest, historically, I've never been a huge fan of outbound. It's a disproportionate amount of effort for, you know, relatively low return, and that's been true for as long as I've been in the marketing game, right? And this topic could actually be a whole episode. Like, I think there's so many little nuances. Like, if we talk about your space, Goran, there's just so many dev shops all over the world, you know, mass mailing people to try and get their attention, that it's super crowded. And I think outbound in general has become saturated, but, you know, specific industries, verticals worse than others. And somehow I don't know if it's like the growth of companies like Outreach and SalesLoft and like this notion of sales engagement or whatever. Somehow, outbound has, you know, been touted as this like volume play, right? Like as much, like let's
Exactly.
build as big of a list as you possibly can, and go against that, go after that. And the reality, what we've come to realize at Breadcrumbs, and I think I've knew this instinctually all along, is outbound makes a ton of sense in the context of like an ABM strategy, for example, right? Like if you have 100 target logos that you want to go after, cold email is going to be a part of that for sure. But it's not a mass strategy. It's a very targeted, personalized, invested strategy, right? And if you want to go a little bit broader, it's still going to be, it should be hyper focused, right? Like, what is this exact persona in the exact industry with like a message that really resonates for them and some kind of value proposition call to action that is like super compelling. Figuring all of that out is a lot of work and it's hard. And you're not going to be able to do it, repeatedly, constantly well. So you just need to focus on you need to focus is basically what it comes down to, in my opinion. What do you think about that?
I mean, I agree 100%. One of the reasons why we kind of ditched it is we didn't do it as detailed and as focused as you just described. So because we just don't have enough capacity to handle all the inbound deals, and then on top of that to do the outbound properly. So that's one of the reasons why we hired external agency to help us out. But I would say that you definitely need to be focused. You definitely need to know what you're targeting, and I think we learned that throughout the process what we want to target, and that's one of the reasons why we ditched it, because we thought of better ways how we can do it, and by not doing the outbound, like as a general concept.
Right. And so in terms of these tactics, right? So we were just talking about outbound. I mentioned a couple of tools. Are there any pieces of technology that over the years you've realized are just fundamental, like you couldn't live without them? You think most companies couldn't live without them? I have a very specific opinion on this, so I'm curious about yours.
Yeah, I think in our space, like a website is something that you can't live without. That's the first thing.
Yeah,
That's kind of
sure.
your window to the world. And then other things would probably be, I mean, some sort of a tool to manage your business internally. And as I mentioned earlier, we have a spin-off that's called Productive. And it's basically something that helped us a great deal to be able to keep up with this growth as a company, both in numbers and in terms of revenue, clients, etc. Because
Hmm.
you need to be able to track your people, to track the time that they're investing in coding, designing, etc. So you can
Yeah,
get back reports, you can get back your profitability, etc. And that's the foundation that you need to be able to grow. So I would say that's pretty crucial to have.
right. Yeah, but I'm talking about more
What's your idea?
you'll talk. Well, so you'll talk to some people and you'll say and they'll say, every company must eventually be on Salesforce. Like Salesforce is the gold standard of CRM. That's the end game when it comes to
Mhm.
CRM. Or, you must have something like Zendesk for customer success, customer support, or SalesLoft's outreach for sales, right? Sales engagement. I
Right.
have never believed that a specific solution is a must-have, right? Like I've always believed that technology is a tool, and that tool is only as helpful as the person using it, right? Like if you give a carpenter a shoemaker's tool, he's not going to be able to build you a very good house. But you give him a hammer, he's going to build a great house, right? You
Yeah.
give someone else who's not a carpenter a hammer, they're not going to build you a great house, right? It's all about the right tool in the right person's hand, and Salesforce might be like an amazing CRM. I've seen horrible instances of Salesforce, right? Where it's just like it's this big giant mess, never utilized. And Joe probably has opinions about this, right? Because Joe has done ops roles before. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's all about adapting. Like I think that's like what it really comes down to. Like you switch companies and somebody uses a whole new set of tools and you can't just, throw a fit and insist on a total revamp of the tech stack or anything like that. You just adapt, you make it work for the business. So I think that's like always been my approach. And you become more agnostic about it, and then you become more of like a jack of all trades, right? You become easier to market yourself when it comes to new roles or new companies and things like that too. So yeah, it becomes less about the tools. But I'd be curious, Gordon, like kind of how you think about like the internal stuff that you guys use, or even just you personally, if that stuff really impacts how you work day to day and how you achieve what you guys are trying to do, or if it's just kind of a piece that helps your ultimate goal and becomes less important about what the tool is itself.
Yeah, I mean, we use Productive for everything because it's all in one solution. It has modules from for project managing, for reporting, for invoicing, for sales pipeline, for CRM. So it's basically all in one solution that the whole company uses. Now, me personally and my team, we use a sales module the most because we have the pipeline there, we have all the deals listed, we have all the information that we need, like the feed, financials, etc. And then project managers, they use the CRM, they use task management module where they can see, a bunch of the roadmap for the project and all that stuff. And then I don't know, finance department, they use the invoicing part. So it's a combination of different modules that encompasses like everything you need to be able to run the agency, and that's what we use. In terms of other things, we use Slack for communication, and then obviously I personally don't need anything else besides Zoom or anything or something like that where I can take calls.
Yeah. No, that's this Productive. Obviously, you guys built it. It sounds like it's designed mostly for agencies, right? So it's like that's like a custom
For
tool. Yeah, which is amazing. Most companies don't have the ability to build their own custom solution to run their business.
Yeah.
So it's about putting.
We've been building it we started building it 10 years ago, and we did it for us. And then we figured that other agencies could use it too. So we, we licensed it, we commercialized it, and then we, built a marketing strategy around it. And it's now a separate company basically that runs on its own basically. And the Infinum, Infinum is actually a paying customer to Productive right now.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Well, listen, it kind of goes to like the genesis of Breadcrumbs was really, I had built scoring apparatuses at a bunch of different companies. And one of, Armando, our CEO, who is, kind of the visionary, he's like, dude, why do you keep building this over and over and over again? Let's build a product that does it. And so like what we accomplish, someone else like me can do it with existing technology. But at some point, if they want something that's really, really powerful, Breadcrumbs is the solution. So there's a time and place for all of these different solutions, right? And at the same time, we realize, companies will start off on MailChimp and then go to HubSpot and then go to Marketo, and there's this natural evolution of technology in most companies. So, Breadcrumbs is an awesome solution because as you evolve, we can go with you. We integrate with MailChimp. So when you're on MailChimp, cool. And then when you move to HubSpot, we integrate with HubSpot. So all of the logic and all of the stuff that you've built in Breadcrumbs just evolves with you once you've made the decision that Breadcrumbs is the right solution for you. And I think it's just a manifestation of our philosophy that, tools are really meant to enable. They're not the solution, right? It's about who's using the tool that really delivers the most value. But we're getting close to the end of our time, Goran. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to leave our listeners with, some kind of insight that you'd like to, like, what is the biggest thing you've learned, or a tip, or something that you think will be useful for our listeners?
Well, yeah, I think that basically, first of all, I hope that everyone went through pandemic okay, that everyone's kind of in a good spot right now. And I would kind of like to say that they need to keep persistent in whatever they do in their life, because any type of success doesn't come overnight. And there's a saying that I heard somewhere. It's like, if you want to have an overnight success, you need to work hard for 10 or 15 years, which is kind of the point.
No, that's that's a very good insight.
Yeah. So need to keep persistent, and the good things will happen, and to have faith in yourself and people around you if you're working and building something with the team.
Yeah, Joe, that's probably how you got to the end of your century ride, right? Is being persistent and tenacious, because otherwise, how do you accomplish something like that?
I almost called Uber, to get me to the end, but I stay persistent. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, Goran, listen, thank you so much for your time. This was a fun chat. I hope our listeners enjoyed it. If anyone wants to get in touch with you or wants to learn more about Infinum, where would you direct them?
I mean, our website, infinum.com. And me personally on my social media profiles.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Goran. I really appreciate your time. Joe, thank you again for coming along for the ride. Everybody that's listened, thank you for giving us a bunch of your time. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it was entertaining. And as always, stay tuned. More Revenue Cafe coming your way soon.
Thanks for watching the full episode. Make sure you subscribe. The social media links below. For more detailed info about what we do, take a look at breadcrumbs.io.